All right, here we are, Sunday evening. It's time for Old Testament studies, Ecclesiastes, chapter 5. As we're working through the book of Ecclesiastes, in a way, Solomon's doing a lot of experiments. I've come to look at it this way. Solomon wasn't really this foolish, trying all these things himself. I think that Solomon, under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, Solomon was very wise. The Bible tells us that most of the time, but I think the purpose of the book of Ecclesiastes shows here's all these different experiments that people do back in Solomon's time and in our time today to try and find fulfillment, satisfaction, peace, contentment. And all these different things that the world tries, they finally realize that it's just vanity. It doesn't do it. There's something missing. And that's as we go through these chapters, and that's why I always point out as we begin each chapter that Solomon's story comes to the next to last verse, and he says, here's the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep his commandments. Let's just read it. I've got it butchered up here, but Ecclesiastes 12:13. Let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work to judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. That's the climax of the story, if you would. But as we go through the chapters, it's like I've tried it this way, and I've tried it this way, and I've tried it this way, and it just don't work. It's vanity of vanities, he says. So let's see where he's going to try here in chapter 5. Here's what a lot of people say. Well, maybe I'll go to church and find fulfillment. That's a step in the right direction, but just going to church makes you a churchgoer, right? As the old preacher said, going into church don't make you a Christian any more than going in the garage makes you a car. But that's a good place to go, but some people are like the one Solomon describes in these early verses of chapter 5 here. It says, Now keep your foot when you go to the house of God. You just sit there and mind your own business, right? And be more ready to hear. That's always good. Than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. I think Solomon's saying, if you go to church now, you be careful. You don't get too involved. Just them other people, they're always involved, and they're a bunch of hypocrites. You've known people like this. Hoping you're not one of them. But be careful. Let's just don't participate, but you can go and be dignified. Now, just don't get too far involved in it. This morning's message was a revival in the land. We're experiencing that in America. I think maybe for the first time. I'm hoping this is the tip of the iceberg when we see the revival spreading through these colleges and even high schools now among the young people. That's what we've been praying for. That's what we haven't had in this country in like over a century as the country's continued to decline and decline. But here's a recipe for a revival for you. What if everybody who goes to church, as we went to church and as we entered the sanctuary, prayed the prayer, say, Lord, let me be a worshiper today. Not just somebody here to be entertained. Let me be a worshiper today. Boy, that'd be revival right there, wouldn't it? Solomon says, don't get too involved, though. Just go and don't get too... And don't be rash with your mouth while you're there. Be careful. Let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before God, for God's in heaven and you're on the earth. Therefore, let your words be few. Just be careful if you go. Because for a dream comes through the multitude of business, or if you want to realize your dreams, it takes a lot of hard work, And a fool's voice is known by the multitude of words. This guy that's trying to look for fulfillment in religion here, see, that don't get too involved, fake kind of religion. Maybe I'll go to church kind of religion. He says, if you want to realize your dreams, you got to work hard. It takes a lot of effort. Well, some people think that Christianity is just a dream and that Christ is just a dream, and they don't ever experience the reality of Christ. And some people go to church and they sit there just like Solomon in his story here is A fool's voice is known by the multitude of his words. They're not there to worship. They're sitting there thinking, ain't this preacher ever going to be quiet? He's just going on, and I'm ready to go, right? When you vow to God. And Solomon would say in his story here, said, don't do it. When you vow to God, defer not to pay it. For he has no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou vowed. Better is it that you should not vow than you should vow and not pay it. Don't promise something you can't do. You be careful when you go to church. Now, suffer not thy mouth to cause your flesh to sin. Don't let your mouth get you in trouble here. Neither say thou before the angel or the messenger of God that it was an error. I made a mistake. I promised something I shouldn't have. Wherefore should God be angry at thy voice and destroy the work of thy hands? For in the multitude of dreams and many words, there are diverse or various vanities. Just fear God, he says. He says it's a bunch of religion is just emptiness to you. And he's true. It's really true about that. See, if you're just going and just dabbling in religion, there's no fulfillment in that. But if you become a Christian in the truest sense of the word and Christ becomes number one in your life, there's a reality in that, and it's not vanity or emptiness. Verse 8, he says, if you see the oppression of the poor and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter. Don't be too concerned if you see bad things going on. For he that's higher than the highest regards, and there's higher than these. I think Solomon's saying here, don't get too involved with trying to straighten things out. Just let God take care of it. He'll handle it, right? Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all. The king himself served by the field. And Solomon was king at this time, I believe. And he that loves silver shall not be satisfied with silver. Solomon was the richest man on the planet Earth at this time. And he's found out now that even having all that wealth is just vanity, has no meaning to it. It's not fulfilling. He that loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This also is vanity or emptiness. When goods increase, they're increased that eat them, or the more you've got, the more people or more bills you got, more it's going out, and it's coming in. It's just more trouble and more headache. And what good is there to the owners thereof, saving the beholding of them with them? They can look at them. The sleep of a laboring man is sweet. Now that's true, ain't it? You know, I think there's a proverb that says that the guy that's out there laboring and working hard sleeps more of a blessing to him than it is to the other guy. He'll sleep better. And that's what Solomon said here. I've got all this about me, and I've got all this wealth and all these things on my mind and all this. I can't even sleep. But the old man working out there in the field comes in, he sleeps like a log. The sleep of a laboring man's sweet, whether he eats little or much. But the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. They've just got too much wealth, and they didn't get out there and labor all day. There's a sore evil which I've seen under the sun. Or here's a sore spot with me, Solomon says, sore evil which I've seen under the sun on this earth, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. So some people just go through the life of being miserly and keeping and hoarding all they can, and Solomon's realizes it's just problems. They didn't get nothing out of it, because here's what happens. Those riches perish by evil travail. You know, something bad happens, and, you know, you get, we say, some big medical bills or something will come, right? Or here's something that I've seen in my lifetime, and you probably have too, that somebody's just really been a spendthrift, and they didn't really enjoy the wealth that they had, and they saved it up for the generation to come, and then the son comes along, as Solomon says, and then there's nothing. They just burn through it. Those riches perish by evil travail. He begets a son, and then there's nothing in his hand. As he came forth of his mother's womb, here's the other thing Solomon's observed, says, I've seen these guys like this. I said, they've made a whole bunch of money and they've went through this world rich, and they've had a son that after they died, they just went through it, and it ruined. A lot of people have inherited wealth that ruined them because they couldn't handle it to start with. But the guy that made it, Solomon says, he ain't no better off. Says he come forth naked from his mother's womb, and he went to his grave out in eternity the same way. He came forth of his mother's womb, and naked shall he return as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hand. He can't take it with him, can he? And this also is a sore evil, another sore spot with Solomon, that in all points as he came, so shall he go. What profit has he that labored for the wind? Well, when you only look at this life under the sun and don't look at the things in the light of eternity, that would be true. Right? They just eat, drink, be merry, for tomorrow we die. Can't take it with you. All his days he eats in darkness, probably because this guy was too miserly to spend on lights. And he that has much sorrow and wrath with his sickness. He gets sick just like other men do. Behold that which I've seen. Solomon's thinking, here's what I've got. When you just look at life under the sun instead of the light of eternity, he says, here's what I've come up with. Said, you better just enjoy eating and drinking and enjoy your labor, because that's all there is if it's just the life under the sun. It's good for one to eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor that he takes under the sun all the days of his life, which God gives him, for it's his portion. See, Solomon at least said, anything I've got, it's a gift of God. He's going to say that in verse 19 again. Every man also to whom God gives riches and wealth, and has given him power to eat thereof, and take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor, he says, that's the gift of God. For he shall not much remember the days of his life. I don't know if this could be in a positive way, that he'll forget the hard days in his life when he realizes things are a gift of God, and that because God answers him in the joy of his heart. And I would take it that way, that when we go through this life, not just thinking about this world as all there is, but that there is a God, and that we can fellowship with that God through the person of Jesus Christ, and we can have that joy in our heart and that communion with God even as we go through this life, then we'll forget about the hard times we went through. We'll remember the good things, and that, hey, I'm a child of God no matter what comes down the pike here. Let me read verse 13 again, because this is where we're building up to. We're just doing a chapter a week, but if you just sit down and read this in one sitting, like Solomon probably intended for it to read, he goes through all the experiments that people try to find fulfillment. But then he just finally comes down and says, now, by the way, verse 12 is the last experiment. He says, you get old and you get your body starts falling apart and all these things, and it kind of is depressing. But he says, here's the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man, to fear God and obey him. For God shall bring every work to judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Or to bring a New Testament verse and put at the end right here, we must all stand before the judgment seat of Jesus Christ to be rewarded for the things done in this body, whether they be good or whether they be bad. See you next week.